All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the YLF Governance Committee for January. I have more words to say in the beginning of the meeting now due to some requirements. So, due to the new Bagley-Keene meeting requirements, I need to inform all of you that the following should be followed. Please, in your introductions, announce if you are at the meeting in person or joining virtually. If you are joining virtually, your cameras need to be turned on unless you're experiencing technical difficulties. And if there's anyone over the age of 18 in the room with you, please also let us know that in your introduction so that we can note that in the meeting minutes. Yes.
Just real quick, and that applies to members of the committee only. So Logan and Louie, you guys are members of the public, so you don't have to keep your cameras on and you don't have to state anybody over the age of 18 in the room with you. So, but everyone else on the meeting today is a member. So you would have to notate that for our meeting minutes. Just clarification.
When we do introductions in a moment, I have an order to go in. Let me make sure I have everything else. I'm just gonna go through the rest of this and then we'll do introductions. For if you're using video conferencing, use the raise hand icon on Zoom if you have a question or a comment. If you're, I don't think any of you are on the phone, but if you were, *6 and raise hand is *9. Interesting, I never knew that. Whenever you speak, everybody on this call is usually really good about this, but please say your name before speaking, whether you're on video or the telephone, so that other participants on Zoom and the captioning can identify you, as well as for the meeting minutes. And you can also use the chat feature, and staff or myself will see your comment and read the chat out loud. Okay, am I good to start intros? Let's start with members. So I'm going to go in the order you're showing up on my screen. Blair, would you like to start?
Hi, Blair Webb. Hi, I'm Blair Webb. My aide, Vanessa. My aide, Vanessa. Yeah, is here.
Great, thank you. Next, Danielle, right?
Sure. My name is Danielle Hess. I am participating in this meeting from my home office remotely. My day job is for the State Independent Living Council, and I use pronouns she, her.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, hi, Charlie Kaplan. I'm representing Friends of Californians with Disabilities, Inc. And I'm on remotely from my house too. And I'm part of the fund development work team.
Okay. And Benita? Oh,
I am unmuted. Forgive me, everyone. Benita Bangs, EDD. I am attending this meeting virtually, working remotely. I'm attending this meeting virtually and representing the Workforce Services Branch EDD.
and Johnny?
Thank you.
Hi, Johnny. My name pronunciation is I am a YLF alumni coordinator.
And Danny Anderson, governance chair, virtually participating. Oh, a 6-year-old dog in the room, dog ears. I'm not sure. No, that just, okay. Okay, I'm just making sure. Next is CCEP staff. So Matt, would you like to go ahead?
Hi, Matt Baker, YLF project manager. I am attending this meeting virtually.
And Maria?
Hey, I'm Mariella Ferris Jurdy, and I'm in person attending at Central Office.
Okay. And Margaret?
Hi, I'm Margaret Balistreri, and I am attending virtually also.
All right, and then members of the public, Luis, lovely to see you.
Thank you. My name is Luis Mendoza. I'm a member of the public, and I'm attending virtually from my work office in Whittier, California.
And Logan, you're on mute.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Logan Pendergraft. My pronouns are he, him. I am currently in school, but I've made time for this meeting. I walk in the mornings, and I'm a representative for California School for the Deaf.
Great, thank you. And Johnny, you
I
have
am attending virtually.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
John,
I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I am also attending virtually from my home office. Sorry.
all right, thank you. Okay, next is approval of the December 2023 meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Were there any comments, corrections, questions? Okay, I could take a motion to approve those.
This is Danielle. I'm happy to make a motion to approve those minutes.
And this is Charlie Kaplan. I'll second.
Thank you. Margaret, would you like to call for the vote?
Yes. Anderson,
Yes.
Baines, Benita,
Yes.
thank you. Hess,
Yes.
Catherine is not- Blair,
Yeah. Yes.
and Johnny,
Abstain.
abstain. One, two, three, four, 401.
Oh, you forgot Charlie,
Got
Margaret.
me.
Oh, I forgot Charlie.
Yeah. I vote
Charlie?
yes. Charlie Kaplan, I vote yes.
Okay, 501 then.
Great, thank you. Next, I'll pass it over to Matt to discuss everything budget.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for bearing with us with the new Bagley King requirements that took effect January 1. Our meetings will look slightly different, but I think we will get used to the new changes as we progress in the different months. So I appreciate everyone's support in ensuring that we meet the requirements of the law, but also are able to do our business. So with that, I will pop into our 2023-2024 budget updates. So everyone hopefully got a chance to review the budget document. I will give me 1 second and I will screen share our 2023 budget. Can everyone see the screen okay? Okay. Give me 1 second while I move my notes out of the way. So I'll make this bigger too. Probably teeny tiny. So we received our final check that we were waiting for from the Department of Developmental Services. So that closed out all of our funding commitments for YLF 2023. So we had a total operating budget of $153,498. And then our pledge funding was $225,994. So with all of our final invoices received, we had some outstanding invoices from our AV team who finished the summary video, which you all got a chance to look at after last month's meeting. We now can close out officially the 2023 budget, leaving us a balance of $72,496 from private donors and past staff stipends that were carried over or donated back to us. And all of those donations and funds will move forward to 2024's budget. And all of our public dollars from our state partners were used to cover all of the operating cost of 2023. So every dollar was spent. Any questions about 2023's budget?
Nope.
No? Okay, give me 1 second
Good
to
job.
swap budgets. I think that should just transition, right? You
Yep.
can see the new one?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So our YLF 2024 budget has an estimated cost of $253,700. Some changes since last month included an increase to the estimate for our AV for YLF 2024. Previously, that amount was only $5,000, but given some of the quotes that we got from a few vendors here in town, we needed to adjust that quote. Thank you to our previous years, Fred and everybody who worked on AV for many, many years for us at very, very deep discount. But these are kind of what the market value is of that work. So we've increased the estimation for that to get what we need out of those services. And then other things that were updated since last month is we did have incur some invoicing for ASL interpreting and text captioning services that we used for our parents and families session back in November. In terms of that, there were no other big changes to our budget since last month. The only thing that we're concerned now about is funding. So right now we had tentative commitments from California Workforce Development Board and the Department of Social Services. But due to a recent budget letter that was issued by the governor's office, limiting purchases and contracts that use general fund dollars to mission critical operations only. Our potential funding from our state partners is on hold until we get more details from the governor's office and the Department of Finance for those agencies of whether they can proceed with those agreements to fund YLF with the commitments that they've had. So we'll continue to work closely with our partners at DSS, DDS, and California Workforce Development Board to get more information. DOR, however, is in a different kind of avenue. We're using case service dollars, which aren't really state dollars, they're federal dollars. So we're working with DOR to confirm that they will continue to fund participants of YLF delegates who are also clients of DOR. We've estimated a cost per student that was slightly higher than last year's, obviously because the budget this year is a lot higher. So given that cost, we've estimated $4,758 per student, which is a potential of $237,900 if all 50 of our delegates are also DOR participants. So that should close that big gap in funding. But we also still need to do outreach to our private partners. So Charlie and Catherine, I'll connect with you guys on that front and see where we can get some private donors to kind of make up those differences so we don't have to use all of the funding that we have in reserves. Any questions about our budget? I know I went through a lot of information just now, so Charlie?
Yeah, that's Charlie Kaplan. Two questions. One, when are we going to find out about the budget? I mean, I know California has a deficit. I'm sure, yeah, every department has to cut back. So, we have any idea when we're going to know?
As of now, so today, I don't know if most of you are aware, but the governor did announce his proposed budget. Obviously, there'll be some lawmakers, conversations will happen, agencies will talk, and then there'll be a May revise. So I don't suspect we will hear anything until closer to May. I know that's kind of tight for us. I'm confident that with the way the budget letter is interpreted now, my interpretation is that this program is mission critical to those agencies like mission critical, right, is what the budget letter says. So only tasks that are related to mission critical, which I believe YLF falls under that category. I don't know if the other agencies will justify it that way, but I think we can find a way to get the funding commitments that we've gotten in the past from those state partners. It's just how does that agency interpret the budget
Right.
letter? And that budget letter was issued back in December. It can change now with the new budget that's actually come out.
Right.
So
Okay.
we don't know what we're working with just yet.
Okay, thanks. Okay, that was the first question. Second question, with the DOR, you said the funding is a little different. Is that a given, or do we still need approval, and when would that happen? Because that's the biggest chunk, obviously. Yeah.
Correct. So we just had sent an email confirmation to the VRED deputy yesterday to get confirmation that with the new rate, because we had to calculate what that was, working with program policy to determine what
Right.
they can and can't pay for. So it sounds like all the conversation is there. We're just waiting for that final okay, which hopefully we'll get by the end of the week, if not sooner. So once that's good to go, then we can move forward with getting those authorizations completed for those
Okay.
students.
Okay, great. And last question, you indicated that the AV costs went up from 5 to 15,000, due to your realistic expectation. Does that include the luncheon? Because you have $8,000 for the luncheon. Does that AV cover the AV for the luncheon too?
No, so the AV for the yes and no. So there are separate AV costs that come with the luncheon package.
Right.
That I'll talk about later when we talk about programming. But it's within that $8,000 budget. So it wouldn't be in addition to, it'll cover, because the facility itself has its own AV charge of $200 for using the screens, using their equipment. But our AV, in the quotes that I have with the companies that are going to do the filming and photography for YLF, I've told them about the luncheon and what that would look like, and they've worked that into those quotes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So basically the 8,000 will include that, and then the 15 would be all the AV. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other budget questions? I see Logan's hand went up.
This is Logan Pendergraft. Budget wise, with the amount of money we have, because it's depending on whether or not the students or the delegates would be able to enter the deal, all because most places in California either know or they don't know, because reasons that I don't like saying. It's if YLF can be small, spread out in wards, people will be able to put their children here, so they can learn more and implement that to their schools, so they can teach teachers, friends, peers, all that.
Are you talking about regional events? Is that what you're asking about, Logan?
No, because with the little situation right now, due to the new law by the governor, due to the new statement by the governor, it's just a question whether or not DOR in schools or in certain areas nearby the schools will ask students to join their studio research. Because I did my research on this when I joined last year in the summer.
Okay. Yeah, no, so I know what so yes, our outreach has DOR offices in different regions of California have reached out to schools and have made connections to get participants who are already connected with DOR or are interested in connecting with DOR. So yes, there will be an outreach for students who have applied to the program but didn't know about DOR to get them informed of DOR services to potentially sign them up to become consumers so that then DOR can pay for them. If that's kind of, I think that's what I'm gathering you're saying. So
Yes, that's exactly it.
and that happens every year. We have a significant amount of students who aren't connected to DOR, and then because of application, we introduce them to DOR, and then if they choose to have services by DOR, then they would be covered. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for clarifying that for everyone else.
Any
All right.
other questions? I'm gonna stop sharing.
All right, next moving on to back to Matt for YLF 2024.
Okay, give me 1 second. Yeah, so student outreach and marketing, I have an update on that. As of earlier this month, we have received 102 applications for YLF 2024. So coming back swinging. Danny and myself continue to conduct our student interviews. We hopefully will be able to wrap those up early February, so that we can make final delegate selections and get things moving on that front. Are there any questions about student outreach and marketing? I see Danielle's hand went up.
There we go. Figured out the raised hand thing. So this is Danielle. I did get a question from Keith Miller down at Cal Life down in SoCal, and he feels like they're missing out a little bit, not being able to do the interviews with their students. So I just want to make sure I mention that so we can hopefully get the ILCs who want to be involved somehow. So just I don't know that there's anything to do about it. Just wanted to let you know he's still interested in being involved and they'd like to connect with the students.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think just logistically it was difficult with our interview scheduling to kind of loop the ILCs in with this portion of the interviews, but there might be another opportunity for them to engage with the delegates that are in their catchment area. And I think Danny and I can kind of discuss how to make that happen. But I definitely want especially those ILCs that are really motivated to connect with the students. I want them to have that opportunity to connect with them as well, for sure.
Yeah, I would say there's a handful of them that are really enthusiastic about it and they're pretty good about it. So I'd like to be able to keep them involved if we can.
Definitely.
Cool. Thank you.
And with that, any other questions about student outreach? No. So that leads us to our volunteer staff outreach and marketing. As of yesterday, we have started recruiting for staff for YLF 2024. The application is fully online, similar to the student application. And our initial deadline for applications is March 31st. Hopefully we will get enough applications to get some qualified staff to support 50 delegates this year. So for 50 students, we're going to need a lot of staff. So hopefully that will also encourage ILCs who are highly motivated to connect with students. Maybe they will sign up to be volunteer staff. That would be lovely to see those applications come in. Any questions about our volunteer outreach? Logan.
Well, Logan again. I have a few questions about this since I wanted to volunteer help. But I just have a few questions. Can you explain the volunteer thing since we're on topic? Because I think most people get very confused with volunteer walking instead of real walking. Because I did both from time to time with past experiences with different school events, operations of organizations. For this, because this is mostly a state thing, I have no idea. So can you explain that, Matt?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to answer, so we for YLF as an alumni, you remember there were staff in the navy blue shirts. Those are our volunteer staff. So our counselors, our peer counselors, our PCA staff, those are all volunteers. And we call them volunteer staff because they're not employees of YLF. They're volunteering their time. There is a potential small staff stipend available for some folks, depending on the role that they're fulfilling that week. So that's why they're considered volunteer staff and not like a paid staff or an employee of DOR, since we're not that type of organization. But if you have specific questions about the different roles that you would be eligible for, there is information on our website under staff that, give me 1 second to share screen and I can show you where to find that information. Give me 1 second. And then Blair, I see your hand, so we'll come to you in 1 second. Okay, can everyone see the screen okay?
Mhm.
So this is the new staff webpage. The link to the application is directly found here. If you scroll down halfway through the page, there are some position descriptions. I think, Logan, that'll be really helpful for you to identify what position you would be best qualified for. There's an information on the background check requirements, and then a link to our flyer. Our week at a glance will get linked here eventually, but because that's a work in progress, as we all know, that will get uploaded as soon as that's completed. So this is our staff page, and this is where everything staff related will be held and housed. So if anybody has any questions or needs information about staffing, that's all on here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, Blair?
Hi, this is Blair. You know how last year YLF had us P T C A P T capital CAP E T I captioner. Do you already have a captioner, or is that a position anyone can apply to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are certain positions and roles at YLF that are contracted roles. So our YLF nurse, that's a contract. So that person is required to be a registered nurse, have licensing, special insurance. For our interpreters and text captioners, though, we have a contract for those positions as well. So they're not considered volunteer staff. They're hired through a contract process with us. So and we're in contact with our text captioner and Tasha. Everybody knows Tasha. So we've been in contact with Tasha about her availability for YLF 2024, and she's confirmed that she will be available for us this summer. So she'll be back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about staffing? Yeah, Charlie.
This isn't a question, but just clarification too. The only other paid positions are for the PCAs, the personal care attendants. And, with the nursing staff and the interpreters and captioners, those are the paid positions, and everything else is are volunteers.
Correct. And night security as well.
Right.
Those are all secured finance. Yeah, those are
Right.
all paid positions. Correct. The other positions may offer a staff stipend
Right.
pending budget availability, but yeah. Any other questions about staffing? Okay. So moving on, the next little bullet point in this agenda is the week at a glance updates. Danielle, do you want to share screen since you put the document together, and then we can go through day by day and confirm speaker?
Yeah, happy to. Let me just get that shared. There we go.
So I think the easiest way to move through this document is we'll start with day one. We'll list, we can identify that the speakers are identified. We can name them. If anybody has any opinion on that speaker, let us know. This is the time to kind of say anything about that person. And then we will move forward with making decisions today, gathering consensus on who we want to put in requests for. And then Danielle, who's helping out with program and leading program this year, will kind of do the follow-up with those individuals to see about their availability. So with that, we'll start with day one. We have Sarah Triano. This is for our opening session. So we have Sarah Triano, Christina Mills, who are both YLF alumni. And then we have potentially Nina G. And then Jade out of, oh, give me 1 second. Sorry, my team, somebody's calling me our team. And then Jade, who is a disabled comedian out of Oakland, was also recommended here as well. So does anybody have any strong feelings about any of these speakers in particular? Should we reach out to all four? What's the consensus here?
This is Johnny. Is there do we know if our comedian potentials are asking for a rate or a fee?
We do not. So that would be part of the ask. So we would reach out to them and then see what their rates are. Just kind of, I know in conversations that I've had with Nina G already, because I'm also on the national YLF call, they're trying to get her for the national YLF event. She gave them a rate already, so we know what she was going to charge them, and then if she works with us, then it might change. She might give us a discount. So for doing both jobs, so there's potential there.
Which I mean, all four of our potentials should be paid for their insight. The speaking from like OG, I was just gonna say, having Sarah's always special just because he was part of that first class. That we all love Christina as well, and Nina's very funny and very great. And I'm sure Jade is amazing at what they do as well. So all these authors are great. But if I had to pick, I'd pick Sarah.
I'm thinking, just given the budget conversation that we had, that we should prioritize alumni who will be less we know will be less cost. So I'm wondering if maybe it would be beneficial to do like a first choice, second choice. So like Sarah, then Christina, especially since we know we could potentially plug Christina in somewhere else during the week as well. Thoughts on that?
I agree. I think this, and I think when we're thinking about budget too, somebody like Nina G or Jade or a comedian might be more beneficial to spend the money during a different type of event, like the luncheon or graduation ceremony. Maybe not necessarily spend that money up front at opening session. So, Benita, I saw your hand went up.
I was like, I don't see the little hand up. Okay, so that was, I was gonna ask the question, but and then that was a good point that was just said in terms of prioritizing. I was wondering if, because I thought there were more people. I was checking my notes. I thought there were more people that we had identified. So I was gonna ask, how did we get down to like, it looks like the final four, what was their criteria? But it just seems like availability is one, but then cost will be a factor. And then I like the idea of prioritizing, but then also the consideration of use of members throughout in other areas of the conference. So I
Okay.
think that's a good idea.
Benita, you're right. We did have a longer list. This is just looking at this one opening session potential, and then throughout we're going to go through the whole week.
Also, there'll be, okay.
Yeah. So the others we thought maybe would be better for other,
Okay, so I was like, wow, there's a lot of people I wrote, because I wrote them down. I was like, how did they did good?
Blair, did you have a question? No? Okay.
I think it would be important for young people to know about Mills. About, what was the name? Christina Mills.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
Danny. I'm pretty confident that we'll get her to be there at some point during the week, Blair. So they will.
Okay, so it sounds like the consensus is we'll reach out to Sarah first to see about her availability for opening session. And then Christina will reach out second if Sarah's not available. Okay. If now we can move on to day 2.
Did we just want to go over real fast the goals, make sure we're not missing anything? That way when I do the ask for people, I know it's consensus for the group. So
Thank you. Yeah, so we're asking the opening session speaker to welcome the delegates to YLF, introduce the idea of disability community, what that's all about, share the goals of the week of YLF, maybe also speak about their YLF experience as they're both alumni, and then talk about the rules and the norms of YLF and what the YLF experience is all about. Does that sound like everything that we want captured in that opening session? I'm seeing head nods, so okay.
And so that session is an hour. I know we also do the welcome message during that. So would we be asking them to speak for 45, 50 minutes?
Let's do 25 to 30 minutes. I just want to pad time enough for the MC to do kind of opening, welcoming logistics, and then this to do the video message, depending on what that looks like for folks. So. And then doing our cheers and stuff, I think, is important in that opening session. So.
Great, cool. This document is eventually going to become our logistics and all of that. So I just want to capture as much as I can on here. Great.
Do you mind zooming in a little bit, Daniel? Thank you.
Yep.
So for Tuesday, our week at a glance includes our disability history parts 1 and 2. And then our Crip Camp movie night. So for disability history part 1, Rosie has done her presentation the last couple of years. Do we want to reach out to Rosie again and ask her to prepare her presentation to talk about disability history, reviewing the history of the independent living movement and the disability rights movement. Any questions or concerns?
Rosie's always amazing. I think it's good to have her on there early.
So we will move forward with asking Rosie to do that first part. And then the second part of our disability history, we have suggested potentially Alice Wong here to talk about the history of today's modern disability rights movement. So talking about her project, the Disability Visibility Project, to talk about today's current and upcoming disability leaders, and then also talk about the topic of disability justice and intersectionality, which are current kind of frameworks that the disability community is leaning into in the new century as we move forward.
So this is Danielle. I know we've contacted her in the past, and I believe she's someone who has a cost associated with her. Okay, cool. So I'll ask what that is if she's the one we decide to ask.
She does, and so does Rosie. So the only other potential speaker I see here is Rosie, just kind of continuing that conversation, because Rosie's touched on those things in her presentation too. So maybe we can see what Alice's rates are and what Rosie's rates are, and then determine who would fit best here, you know, and break it up that way.
I think too, this could be an opportunity if the cost associated to these two speakers is an issue. Christina Mills has a lot of experience on both of those subjects as well. So that could be a secondary thought if we're being budget minded.
Okay, so we'll do outreach to Rosie and Alice first, and see what their rates are, and then we can report that back at next month's meeting, and then move forward. If we need to think of something else, we can think of something else. So, and then for Crib Camp, we'll just have somebody facilitate that conversation in our staffing. So we'll just identify somebody to talk about the movie and debrief the movie after they watch it. So that won't be required for a speaker, but I know that Danielle has it in here for the logistics purposes of the day. So, okay, so that's day 2. Day 3, we have our first topic panel on moving past high school. We have potential speakers, Rachel Stewart, Kyla Hervey, and Peter. Peter and Kyla are alumni from recent years. And Rachel Stewart used to be the project manager for YLF and is a longtime partner and supporter of YLF. She currently works at Sacramento City College in their workability program as their workability coordinator. So this session's goals are to familiarize delegates with different options moving out of high school. So whether it's going to a 2-year or 4-year college, maybe some vocational training they might, maybe exploring employment after high school for the first time, or while they're still in high school, maybe getting a first-time job. Teaching delegates about the resources that are available to help them reach those goals. So whether it's connecting with the Department of Rehab or other agencies that are out there that serve this community, that serve our community, and then share personal stories and experiences. As all 3 of these individuals are all people with disabilities who have lived experience of moving and transitioning out of high school. Any questions or
excuse me, this is
these
Charlie
Yeah.
Kaplan. How many people are we talking about on this panel?
I believe all 3. We
Okay.
would reach out to all 3.
Okay.
With potentially Rachel moderating this
Right.
conversation. Yeah.
Okay.
There is opportunity for us to add another alumni voice that's not on here. I know that panel, we have about 1 hour and 30 minutes. So we could potentially add another alumni speaker. We could pull somebody from our volunteer staff. I know we do that in past years. If we have alumni who are staff at YLF, they just kind of join a panel and fill in those places. Since we already have them as staff, they'll already be on site. So we could potentially just fill the 4th slot with somebody who's on site staff if we want to do that.
Okay. So just for clarification, so this is this is a little different than I mean, I haven't been there in a while, but isn't there still an independent or living on my own and living independently? Is this different from that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one is kind of what was the old title that we called this one? Was this the resources? No, reaching my goal, something
Yeah, resources to reach my goals or
Goals.
something along those lines.
like the self-advocacy. It's the career self-advocacy one, kind of.
Career part as opposed to the independent living part of it. You sort of split those out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because we wanted it to be more relatable to the youth. Because a lot of the times those panels were made up of older adults who have like established careers, which is
Right.
great and wonderful to show that, but like high school student has a hard time seeing that and then seeing where
Right.
the train is. Where do they get from point A to
Right.
point
Gotcha.
in the agenda? So we need to get them to that place first. So this is somebody who's still kind of in those steps, working their way towards that
Right.
goal.
I might still be living at home while they're doing this. And yeah.
Right, and what that looks like, what independence can look like for different people,
Right,
right? You know, independence doesn't mean you have your own apartment or living
Right.
on your own. You could still be living at home, but still be independent. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
And then Benita, I see your hand went up.
Yes, I think I'm off mute. Yes. So with a potential 4th, so these are 22-minute speaking, like, so this is a panel. Okay, they're not speaking individually. It's a panel, so they're participating together. Because I was thinking 90 minutes, 4 people, are they speaking individually? But now I get it. It's a panel.
Yeah, so we would develop the questions. We kind of already have questions from previous years of other panels, so we would just kind of modify those questions. Danielle and I can work on those on programming to kind of develop those questions that we would use to moderate this conversation.
That'll be good balance to have 4 panelists if we can get a 4th panelist with that amount of time. Yeah. Thank you. That was all. I just wanted clarification.
Okay, so
Thanks.
Danielle will move forward with those individuals. Then after that, then we have our lunch on campus, where we will hopefully have some tours. I know we didn't get to tours in 2023, but maybe we'll have time this year to do that for 2024. So we'll do some outreach to the DSPS office at Sac State to coordinate that, those tours potentially. So I will take lead on reaching out to Mary Lee Vance, who is the head of the DSPS office at Sac State. Okay, and then our next session of that day is the independent living and self-advocacy session. So at previous meetings, we talked about having a split session. We're gonna test this out this year to see what that looks like. So students will have the opportunity to potentially attend a session on independent living and self-advocacy, or they can attend a session on mental health and peer advocacy. So kind of in the same vein, but doing different topics depending on their interests. So for the independent living and self-advocacy panel, we've suggested potential speakers of Gavin Sue, who's an alum, Anna Acton, who is the Deputy Director of Independent Living and Community Access here at the Department of Rehabilitation, Leanne Levis, who is an alum, and also I think she might still be a board member of NAMI or work close with NAMI, and then Allie Cannington, who is also an alum
Yeah.
of YLF.
Good.
And the session goals for this are to share personal background and stories, inform delegates about resources that are available to them to living independently, teaching the delegates about the importance of self-advocacy and how to advocate for themselves to becoming more independent. Any questions about these speakers? No? Okay, we will move forward with asking those individuals. Then the other session is on mental health and peer advocacy. Stephanie Ramos from Cal Voices presented at the Sacramento Regional YLF event. She was wonderful. That organization has a peer program dedicated for students and young adults who have lived experiences as people experiencing mental health disabilities. And so they kind of take you through a peer training. You can become a peer advocate and then actually get work through their services and provide services to other young adults and people experiencing mental health disabilities. So Stephanie's presentation would be kind of talking to the delegates about mental health resources, and then how they can also participate in that peer advocacy support setting. Any questions there? Blair. I'll do Blair first and then Johnny. Yeah. I'm just waiting for Vanessa, I think.
Oh, Matt. Sorry, Matt. Okay, what were you saying? How people who how does the group decide between what? 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 Which one? They want to go to? For this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this is our first time trying this new opportunity where students can kind of look at the topic. Maybe we'll put something in the workbook on a description about what the different sessions are going to be on, and then they'll just choose to go to that session. We'll split the room up. We'll work with logistics to make sure the room is set accordingly for the two different sessions that will run concurrently. So some of our delegates will go to the independent living and self-advocacy panel, and then some will go to this mental health and peer advocacy panel.
Thank you.
And then before I get to Danielle, Johnny, did you still have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to see because I noticed on the first panel, the first topic we had like a panel of delegates, and then for the mental health we only have one speaker. Is that what we're looking at right now, or?
Yeah, there wasn't any suggestions for potential speakers other than Stephanie Ramos at Cal Voices for the mental health and peer advocacy panel. If we want to suggest other speakers, I think Danielle might have a comment with that. So if we can leave it open and we can add names to that list if we want to. And with that, I will let Danielle chime in here. Yeah.
Thank you. This is Danielle. So I'd like to recommend Charlotte Rosario. She's on the San Mateo County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services Youth Committee. And she spoke to the Silk last year, to our CNC committee, about different programs that they have in San Mateo to support youth mental health. And some of that is a lot of like the peer advocacy stuff. So I think she would actually be a really good choice too, if I can reach out to her.
Okay. Do you want to add her to that list, the mental health and peer advocacy? Maybe we could do like a split. Maybe Stephanie can take part of that time and then we can have somebody else share. Johnny?
Danielle had ready with that copy and paste. I just want to say, I just love both of these topics, and I think they're both so important. That I hate to see that delegates will have to split. I understand the reasoning behind it, but just as coming from, a family that doesn't really acknowledge mental health, and there's always a stigma. There may not be a lot of delegates who would attend that resource, that panel. So I would like to see if we could just keep both and maybe throw in alumni theory, maybe change the topics of alumni theory so that there is a fourth option that people could attend or not attend, or I don't know how everyone feels about this, about my comment.
Blair, did you want to add to this? Oh, wait, for Vanessa.
Yeah, what Yeah, what Johnny said is really important. Because even though people who are in high school might not want to talk about mental health, and it's really important for young people to know what to do. No, it would be, and I don't know if it would be possible to get her. But there is a disabled mentor. Mental health. Mental health. Mental health. Contact? No. Sorry. Okay. Spell it. C P O D E D C A podcast. Jamilia. Jamil.
Can I ask you, Danielle, to scroll up a little so we can see both panels?
This one?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah, this is Danielle. I see someone named Jamila Jamil who's been on The Daily Show. Is that who you're talking about, Blair?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Can I just get some clarification? Because I was under the impression that the mental health piece was a program that Matt wanted to bring. It was an opportunity to learn about something that they can volunteer for beyond ILRC. I'm sorry, ILRC, I'm tired. YLF. And that's why we were splitting it, because we weren't sure how many were going to want to be involved as like a peer advocate volunteer opportunity. Is that correct?
Yeah, so thank you. So yeah, originally that's why Stephanie Ramos was identified as the speaker, because she was going to focus heavily on the peer advocacy program that they have. That would be an opportunity for students who have lived experiences experiencing mental health disabilities that would want to participate in a peer advocacy program that they offer. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why we decided to split the session between the two. If we want to not split the session, we could potentially revisit this and figure out, you know, if we want to have a more robust mental health conversation at YLF, we can. My only concern is that our schedule is kind of tight, so we would have to figure things out about where we put this. So,
well, you see, now that you mentioned that, Matt, about like it being more of a volunteer opportunity, that's different than what I had in mind. So this now makes more sense to have it split.
right, and I think there's also, yeah. So right now, let's table this session for a minute, and then Danielle and I can go back to the drawing board and kind of come up with we'll talk about this at next month's meeting to kind of figure those pieces out for this session.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Daniel, for explaining a little bit more or breaking it down. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
And this is Danielle, just to confirm, we're still good on at least the independent living and self-advocacy part, so I can reach out to all of those people.
Yeah,
Cool.
that'll be fine. It's just whether or not this will be a split session with this topic on mental health, or if we add space for that in another session.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, and then also that day we brought back alumni sharing, so we'll have alumni sharing. That's obviously to be determined based on the staffing that we have. Those sessions that we came up with for this year's topics will be building healthy relationships and setting boundaries, aka dating and relationships. But this is a more family-friendly way of saying dating and relationships, given the age group of our students. So building healthy relationships and setting boundaries. And then we have college life, which is obviously a topic we talk about a lot. And then maybe first-time employment experiences. So what that looks like, maybe resume building, getting your first-time job, the pitfalls of your first-time job, making sure you have accommodations in your first-time job, what that looks like, advocating for yourself at your first-time job. All of those good things that come with that. Okay, so that's alumni sharing. Then we have Thursday. We will have our resource fair in the morning, which we will have organizations that we'll reach out to. We have a list of organizations we previously reached out to. Johnny and Blair, as our alumni coordinators, will be tackling that as one of their projects, reaching out to the resource fair folks. And then we'll have our mentoring luncheon. So I have a bit of an update on the mentors luncheon. I know that this year we discussed having the mentoring luncheon on site as opposed to the traditional hotel as part of Capitol Day, to save us money, as well as to kind of refocus this event to what it's really all about, is about mentoring and cultivating those relationships for the students and our mentors and our partners. So with that said, we've done some outreach to Sac State to see what spaces are available for a luncheon size of 150 to 200 people. Given that information, it looks like the space that's available for us is the Alumni Center, which is still on campus, but it's a little bit further from where we are at the dorms. So there's an opportunity for us to have our luncheon there at the Alumni Center. I'm in conversation with folks at Sac State about a potential shuttle that they run on campus that could take students from the dorms to the Alumni Center, so we wouldn't have to walk across campus to the Alumni Center, which, as we know, getting our group anywhere fast is going to take a while. So that will save on time getting us to the Alumni Center. But I'm still working that out. So that's option A. To move forward with that conversation. I got rough estimates on the space and the meals. With space and meals, we're looking at about $4,000 for that budget for the meals, and then about $1,200 for the space, which includes a $500 deposit that would be refunded.
So you said 4,000 on the meals?
So food is 4,000 through the catering company that the Alumni Center, it's the same catering company that Sac State uses.
Right,
So
okay, and then space you said was another 12.
it's 12 with a $500 refund back to us at the end as part of the deposit.
Okay. And then so then the AV would come up to
And the
rest
AV
of
is included in that 12.
Oh, really? I thought you said the AV, their AV, but the AV people that were the cost of the you were talking about the mentors lunch would be about 8,000. And so
$1,200, not 12,000. Sorry. That's a typo.
no, 1,200, but plus the AV portion of the people of what we're paying would be in addition to that. So when we're talking about the budget for the overall luncheon, you had said 8,000. Right. So the 4,000 plus the 1,200 plus whatever our additional AV cost is. Is that what you're saying?
Are you talking about so I separated the contract. So the contract with the Alumni Center, the 1,200 is inclusive of their AV.
No, I understand that, but you had talked about 15,000 for AV for all of YLF, and that would include the mentors lunch. And so part of that is going to go towards the luncheon, because you were talking about a budget of about 8,000 for the overall luncheon. So that's 5,200 plus the additional AV out of the 15,000.
Right. If we wanted to parcel it out that way, I was going to separate the contract and just have.
It's just trying to get an idea of the overall cost. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think this is running for me. There's a bit of confusion. AV is audio and visual, so like the mic setup, the projectors, the screen, or is that also the filming of YLF?
Filming, as it's both.
It's both.
The AV cost at the Alumni Center is for the mics, the screens, capture, like projectors, etc. That's about $200. And then the filming would be a separate contract with an organization that's filming the overall event, including the luncheon.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
I just don't know, Charlie, if they're going to break down in the estimate.
Yeah, no, I just try to get an idea with the 15,000, and then you had the 8,000. I just didn't want to have to incur another cost, and just trying to figure out what the total cost.
Right. Yeah, there wouldn't be. It would be inclusive of that.
Okay,
so this would be technically, if we go with this Alumni Center option as estimated right now, it would be under budget.
Right.
So
perfect.
But that doesn't, but I'm still in talks with Sac State about using their shuttle service. I don't know if there will be a cost
for that, right?
So that will kind of, we'll have to factor that in. So this is option A. Logan, do you have a question about this specifically?
I have to go soon because school is almost done and I have drama practice after school.
Okay. Well, thank you, Logan, for being here with us.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll see you all next time, I guess.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you next month, Logan. So then option 2, there is potential for us, if we can't work out with the shuttle and getting people feasibly across campus to the Alumni Center, we could potentially host the luncheon on the lawn where we host the barbecue. We'd have to keep in mind that this would be midday and it would be quite hot.
Yeah, it's
But the cost would be only for the catering. So.
yeah.
So that's another option. I'm just going to present all 3
Yeah.
options and then we can kind of make a consensus on this. And then the option 3, oh, Benita, did you have a question? Or you'll come back to it? Okay. And then option 3 is to not have a luncheon at all this year and utilize this time for something else. So there are, and then there's one more option. Option 4 would be to find another location that wouldn't be on campus. Of course, that means we would incur a different type of cost because we would have to travel off campus for that. But those are always options. Okay. So given the information presented, how do we feel moving forward? What would we like to do? Charlie?
Yeah, I would vote for option 1. Doing it outside, with the weather and the logistics of setting it up, and the AV and everything involved, it would probably end up, I don't know, it would be a lot harder. Not doing it, I think we need to continue to have the luncheon, in some form, and then off location. Then we're talking about additional costs. I think number 1 to me seems like the most logical option. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Danielle, and then Johnny, or Benita. I don't know which order the hands went in.
It was Benita first.
I'm going to ask Charlie if I can borrow his 2 cents and say that I too agree with option 1. I think the luncheon is really great. We could just figure out how to stay on campus. But my question is, do we know the size of the fleet for the carts? I know it's a big campus. I'm just asking the question because how soon do we have to, if we're going to go that route with the campus shuttles, which I think is a great idea, is that a cost? Is it a part of the overall services that we get for, no, separate? Okay. And like, do they have a lot of carts or minimum amount? Would that affect or impact us on that day if there's other summer programs, other events happening? Would that be a conflict or an effect for us?
Yeah, so I am in conversations with the folks. Sac State loves to kind of parse out the different functions. So I'm in conversations with the transportation group at Sac State who run that shuttle and figuring out what that cost would look like. I just kind of wanted to get an idea of what people were leaning towards before moving forward with continuing those conversations and getting kind of a final estimate of what that would look like, if that's a possibility, what cost that would be. As a student of Sac State, I've seen the shuttle on campus that runs. It's a modified Sac RT van. I mean, that just has new logos that say Sac State on it. So it's the size of a regional transit bus. So it's pretty large, but it would still require a couple of trips for our group size.
And it does accommodate. It
will accommodate wheelchairs and everything because it's a SAC RT bus. But again, based on the number of wheelchair users that we have at Sac State, or at YLF. That will
Mhm.
also determine how many trips we have to take as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
That was great.
Then with Danielle and then Johnny?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I agree, if we can make option one work, that would be ideal. I think that would be great. I don't think on the lawn is, I think that's like last. I'd rather just do something else with that time than just throw everyone out on the lawn. If we did go to an off-campus location, I don't know if people are familiar or it might be available. The Scottish Rite Center is across the street from the dorms. So it is closer than the Alumni Center, even from where they'll be staying. So I don't know if that's something that could be looked at as an option if we can't do the Alumni Center and shuttle.
And I did, you know, I was when I talked to Joe at Sac State about the space, there was conversation about the Scottish Rite Center. The navigation to the Scottish Rite Center for us would be a little bit difficult because of the pathways that they have to get across the street would be a little difficult for us to navigate, but it's not impossible. But we would also have to consider what that looks like for our group kind of navigating over there.
Yeah.
But I can do outreach to them as well if you would like me to. Just to get a kind of cost difference between the Alumni Center and them.
Yeah, I think the Alumni Center would be ideal. So I
Yeah.
think it's more of an, if that doesn't work out, it's an option, but
I second that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Johnny?
I know another summer program that when they did their mentor, like they didn't have a LinkedIn, it was more of a mixer where the mentors would be able to meet the delegates, learn about the delegates. It gives them that network opportunity. And they, gave out this Costco sandwich wraps or, little free meat sandwiches, and it was just, it makes sense that, I don't know how we feel about that outfit. I know that we are known for our luncheons, that, maybe just having it be like a mentor mixer could be like a segue, because I don't want to get rid of the luncheon either. But if we could have another, idea, and maybe we could just have it be in a large group, we could just, get some tables and, tablecloth and whatnot, and just try to make it work. I don't know if I sound crazy or how everyone feels about that.
So I will say there was conversation with Joe about utilizing the large group space for the luncheon, because that was my initial hope, is that the large group space would be large enough to host a luncheon. Given the schematics of the room that we're in, the max that space is able to hold is 96, and that's 96 without ADA considerations. So that with tables, right? Like if we did something more without tables and just kind of had theater style seating, but I don't really think theater style seating is really conducive to eating. If having tables in that room which is what led us to the Alumni Center, based on the space that we would need for the size of the group for this event, whether it's informal or a sit-down luncheon, we just don't have the space in the large group room to hold that type of event, informal or formal.
Agreed.
This is Danny. So what I'm hearing is that it sounds like everybody's kind of leaning towards option one, but we need to just look into the shuttle and be able to buffer enough time to get us over there. So can we work on looking further into that over the next month and then
Yes.
make the final
So
decision next month?
I will move forward with my continued communications with the Alumni Center, and then hopefully have a better answer for us next month to decide. Like Danny mentioned, that if the shuttle doesn't work out, we will need to adjust our schedule that day to include enough travel time for our students to get everybody over to the Alumni Center.
Sorry, Danny, one last question. Are we required to get the campus catering if we use the alumni series, the alumni center?
Well, so we do.
Yeah, so the catering, the Alumni Center offers a variety of catering options. If we use an outside caterer, we have to pay an additional fee to use an outside caterer. To be frank, outside caterers are going to be way more expensive than the on-campus catering. $4,000 for 200 meals is very, very cheap given this market. So, and that's a plated lunch, buffet style. It would be a chicken, something similar we would get to a hotel. So it's chicken, a salad,
Dessert.
a side and a dessert and a drink. So, which last year we paid about $46. No, I think even more. I think we might have paid close to like $50 or $60 a plate. So we would only be, I think the Epicure Catering at Sac State is charging $20 a plate. So.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No worries. Okay. So with that, I guess next month, once we have a decision, we can go back to the speakers and figure out speakers for that event. So. Okay, the last day, or no, second to last day, Friday, we have our capital activities. These are some of the potential speakers that were suggested. Maria and myself have a meeting later this month with all of our partners about Capital Day and identifying these speakers. Maria and I will include these names in those conversations. And then we will be able to report back next month about what Capital Day will look like in terms of what our partners have come up with at DRC, CFILC, and DOR. And so we'll have a better update, but we will take these names. Most of these names are already on that list of potential speakers and the panelists that we want for Capital Day. So we can skip over this day. And then we also have our dance that evening. We, of course, will reach out to a DJ to get our DJ, and then continuing the theme of last year, our 90s theme. The decorations are still somewhat nice, so we can use them again this year. So it'll be a 90s themed dance.
That's the cost savings. Good.
Don't have to buy new decorations. Okay, any questions on Capital Day? Okay, then our last day is graduation, lunch, closing session, and graduation. We have a pretty big chunk of time, but of course, as we know, that will also include our small group share outs. With 50 delegates, we'll probably have about 5 groups. So we want to set aside a big chunk of time for that. As well as having some potential speakers for that as well. We have listed here Danny, who I think we all know, Kyla Aquino Irving, Gina Semenza, and Otto Lana, all are alumni of YLF. Any thoughts on closing session speakers? Benita.
Oh, what about staff, volunteers, sponsors to express either their continued experience or if it were a new experience, especially if they want to continue to support, continue to fund.
Live alone on this drop.
Oh,
Participants who attended and maybe allow for to hear some immediate feedback on how their experience was. Was it whether it was their first time or returning experience in the closing for closing?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So typically for closing session, we have our delegates shoot kind of film a thank you video to all our sponsors, and they name them all. We've done that virtually the last few years, so it's been really easy to record that on Zoom. We're gonna have to logistically figure that out in person, but I've talked to David, our AV people, about like some suggestions on how we can do that, accomplish that during the week and still get that thank you video together. So
yeah,
there'll be an opportunity for us to do a thank you for the closing session so that all of our sponsors and partners are thanked for their service. And then we're also, in my conversations with the AV group, we've talked about live streaming this event to allow for partners, sponsors, parents to be able to tune in and attend this event and hear feedback. So they'll get an opportunity to hear from the delegates. It'll just be another great opportunity, like you said, for people to get that immediate feedback of, you know, if they partnered with us, if they were a sponsor, what the experience was like.
yeah, kind of get, like how you say word of mouth gets people involved, but then also, especially for sponsors, keep them funding the effort, and
Yeah.
then have delegates become maybe even more involved. Sometimes now that happens too, right? They come back, they help to become volunteers. So with just to kind of invoke all of that and
Yeah.
warm fuzzies. I don't remember the video at the end. I missed out. Where was I?
I think that's actually a newer thing that I think we started in the pandemic years, is shooting a very specific thank you video to all of our sponsors. I think
Okay.
before we just included the thank you to our sponsors in the credits of the summary video that was shot really quickly and edited really, really fast to put something together, I think, in our slideshow in previous years. Dan
Gotcha.
and Charlie might be able to provide more information. Charlie?
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was gonna say, I think if I'm understanding correctly, Benita, you were talking about having the sponsors being able to talk about their experiences for the first time, whatever, and that might be more appropriate at the luncheon, where we acknowledge the sponsors, and when they come up, they can, they can talk about that. Because generally, I don't know about the live stream, but generally the closing session is pretty much, the delegates, the staff that are there, any parents that might come earlier, and especially on a Saturday, chances are we're not going to get many
That's a
sponsors
good
in
point.
person. But
Thanks
I
for
think
reminding me of that. Thanks for
but I think at the
reminding me of that.
luncheon, I think at the luncheon, that's where they would have the opportunity to talk about, their responses, their how it affected them, and how they want to stay involved.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie, for that.
And as part of the sponsorship package that Charlie and Catherine and I have put together, there are free tickets to the Mentors Luncheon as part of their, contribution to
Right.
donating. So of course, that would be an opportunity for us to put together that program once we finalize luncheon location, that we can work on program for that. So.
I think it's good.
Okay, so I just want to be mindful of time. We have about 30 minutes left and we still have a few items on our agenda. So with the speakers that we have listed here, our alumni speakers, I think I would say at most it would be a 25 to 30 minute kind of sharing out, things about their life. And this would be kind of a keynote address, essentially.
Right.
So do we want to rank these individuals in terms of our order of asking them to speak? And then we can move forward from there.
I like the order that they're in.
Okay. Perfect. Makes it easy. No objection to that.
Well, I mean, Danny, obviously, we know what she's capable. Kyla's, lives in Sacramento. Gina would be having to come up from Southern California, unless she's up here, and that's a travel issue. And I'm not sure about Otto, but
He's from San Diego,
He's
right?
from San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna come as staff. So
okay. Yeah, and a lot of it depends on who
already
might be
there, right?
here. Yeah.
So if Otto comes up as staff, that's a potential cost savings. We also could utilize technology and have video recorded messages. I know that'll feel kind of weird, or live stream them through Zoom. We could do that as a cost savings method to get speakers. So I don't want to, necessarily.
How many did you want? I'm sorry. Just one?
Probably just one, maybe
Well-
two. I don't know. I'd have to look. I'd have to break down the timetable that we have to include like all the other stuff that we do during closing session, like how
Okay.
much time we want to give to each group. We could potentially do two. I think we have enough time to do two.
I feel like we never have as much time in the closing session as we think we do.
Yeah, I would leave it as one personally. Yeah.
And I'm right here, Danielle. So, and I'll be there. So if you guys,
Yeah, if you're on site, I would recommend Danny, and then Kyla. We've always we've used before. She's a good MC for the luncheon. We could utilize her there too.
Yeah. Okay.
And Matt, this is Danielle. If you wanted to maybe get together sometime over the next few weeks and work out kind of a draft schedule for that session too, that would be good. We can kind of bounce it off each other and hopefully have that organized for next month.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Okay, I think we did it. We've identified our speakers. We have our marching orders for next month's meeting. We'll do our outreach, and hopefully we will have some more information to share out with next month's meetings. So, yay, well on the way for planning. Okay. Danny, I pass it back to you.
Hey, Matt, you want to talk about the regional YLF updates?
Yes, this is Matt providing updates on the regional YLF updates. Los Angeles is still in conversations to host an event, their first event, hopefully taking place this fall. So more on that to come. Sacramento is actually going to be meeting later this month, and we will be talking about planning our second regional YLF event in Sacramento to hopefully take place in the fall of 2024 as well. And San Diego actually recently confirmed their dates for their regional event, which will take place in late June of 2024. So I will have a minor panic attack as I prepare to be in San Diego, and then a few weeks later be at statewide YLF, but neither here nor there. So we're excited to have those regional events happen. Marie and I also plan to do some outreach to other regions in the state who have expressed interest in hosting their own regional events. And we'll start conversations with partners in various regions to hopefully see another regional event pop up soon. So more to come on regional YLF events. Any questions or comments about those? No? Okay.
Okay, agenda items for future meetings. We had a couple of items, the luncheon and the Capitol Day to discuss further. Is there anything else that y'all would like added to that list? Okay. Public comment. Luis, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No, it looks great. It's makes me feel old seeing alumni that are speaking now that they were my delegates when I was a co-counselor.
It's weird.
Okay.
It looks great. Everything looks really, really great.
It shows the great work you've done. It's paid off to help others. Look at that. Nothing to do with age.
And I do want to give a small shout out to Luis for nominating a few students from his school district to apply as delegates. So shout out for keeping the YLF spirit out there and promoting our program. Much appreciated.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn from one of my members? Charlie,
I'll move.
thank you. All right, everyone, we will see you next month. Thank you.